books for unconditional love, Srila Prabhupada Marathon is the month of December, is in the month of December a global effort of devotees to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books everywhere, as much as possible, as long as possible. This marathon last year has started. Actually, the habit of having a marathon every year has started, we can say, by accident. Once at the gas station in America, devotees needed to fill the gas, and they did not have enough money to pay for the gas, so they offered Srila Prabhupada's books in return. And fortunately, the man at the station accepted the books. In this way, devotees distributed the first books. It was in December, in the month of December. And thus, Srila Prabhupada Marathon started sometime in 70s, I think. First, it was called Christmas Marathon, and then some years back, they started to call it Prabhupada Marathon. So for about 4 weeks, at the end of the year, devotees from all over the world go out, sometimes in severe cold, and sometimes for 10 hours a day. And some of you have done it, some of you who are listening have done it, definitely. And some of you have gone maybe for a couple of hours a day, or several hours a day, which is also nice. So distribution of Srila Prabhupada's books has to do with love, because it is actually distribution of love of God and distribution of Srila Prabhupada's and Acharya's love. Their words are embodiment of their love for Krishna. Srila Prabhupada said his purports are his emotional ecstasies. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada's books and developing pure love of God, which is unconditional love, are very intimately related. If we read Srila Prabhupada's books and look at the goals described and recommended in these books, we can see that one of the main goals is to develop unconditional love of God. And when you have unconditional love of God, then you can have unconditional love for everyone, for all of His parts and parcels, for all of His children. So the 8th verse of Shikshashtaka, which was written by Lord Chaitanya, it says, Ashlishya va padaratam pinashtumam adarshanam marmahatam karotu va yata tata va vidadatu lampato matprana natas tusa eva na paraha. So this verse describes the pinnacle of Krishna consciousness and the highest attitude one may have in relation to God, which actually Srimati Radharani has, and also Lord Chaitanya, because Lord Chaitanya is in the mood of Srimati Radharani. In chapter 20 of Antya Lila and chapter 4 of Adi Lila in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya demonstrated this attitude of Srimati Radharani, the attitude of unconditional love. Unconditional love means giving without expecting anything in return. If you speak to conditioned souls in this material world, many of them would probably be shocked or disgusted, or they would resent the idea of giving without expecting anything in return. Because one of the qualities of the conditioned souls is that they are fruitive. What does that mean? They want to do something and then enjoy the fruits of their actions. Bhagavad Gita teaches us to not enjoy the fruits of our work, but to offer the fruits of our work to Krishna for his enjoyment. Therefore, it is hard for conditioned souls to love, give, and serve unconditionally. There is always some business mentality involved. So chapter 4 of Adi Lila and chapter 20 of Antya Lila describe in detail the attitude of Srimati Radharani, the attitude of the gopis and of all the inhabitants of Vrindavan in relation to Krishna. This is something most fascinating I have read in my whole life. People in this material world desire to have a romance. They want to find a partner and have a wonderful, loving relationship. We see that it is very difficult. Usually, any relationship is mixed with anger, hatred, and other troublesome qualities. And even if someone tries to be selfless, after some time he falls into a trap of selfishness or trap of putting himself in the center. And therefore unconditional giving is very hard. But if someone can attain that level, he can feel full satisfaction from unconditional love and unconditional. This is something I think it's most difficult. Some of you have heard Navy SEAL or Foreign Legion commandos who have, we can say, hellish training on the internet, on YouTube. They have to do hundreds of push-ups, pull-ups, a lot of torture, a lot of training, breaking up of the ego, surviving in the impossible conditions, investing of great effort, stretching limits. There are physical limits, mental limits, ego limits, very, very tough training. But in comparison to unconditional love, this is not so hard. It's much harder to love unconditionally. Now in the material world, there is something similar to this, and it is mother's love of her child. However, mother's love is not 100% pure because she thinks that this is her child. So this soul has appeared through her body and she thinks it is her child. Another thing is that when the child is grown up, mother can withdraw her love because the child may become rebellious, get tattoos, put rings all over his body, become nasty, does not want to listen to parents, does not want to cooperate. While he was small and cute, she loved him, but when his body grows up, she does not love him as much. And then she can have a big conflict with that soul who was her beloved child in his childhood. So we see from the practical experience that it's very hard to give without expecting anything in return. One who can do that, I think he gets huge spiritual credits in Krishna's eyes, and he can accelerate his advancement. If we consciously do that, I think we can advance much faster. I did some research on unconditional love in Srila Prabhupada's books. There are some wonderful quotes that we can discuss together, and you can express what you think about them. You can express if you have any doubts. And last 10 years, I worked with many people individually. I have seen that devotees are mainly good people. They want to help others. And one of the vintage challenges of devotees and people in general who want to help others is that other conditioned souls have a tendency to misuse that. Therefore, I have a little like a slogan for you: give, but don't be naive. If you see that someone is taking advantage or misusing your kindness, then you have to let them know, and you're not just letting them exploit you or misuse your kindness. Sometimes it is important to let people know that we can actually change the way we deal with them, that we can become stricter. But generally, we want to give without expecting anything in return. And you may ask, why would I do this? Why would we do that? Because we know Krishna is pleased by this. He constantly tells us through scriptures similar things. In other words, in scriptures also we'll read about giving, about tolerance, about forgiveness, about helping others, not expecting reciprocation. So this helping and service is actually a reward for us. We are happy simply doing that. People say thank you very much for what we do when we do something for them, and we say thank you for accepting my service. I'm happy to serve. We have seen one Facebook post that says, the happiest people on earth are givers, not takers. I believe that many of you who are listening to this are people that strive for goodness. You are selfless and you have experience and pleasure of giving without expecting anything in return. Sometimes it hurts a lot if people are ungrateful or someone starts to misuse your kindness. And then we don't know what to do. Or if someone is ignoring you, you invest in a relationship and the other person does not reciprocate. Sometimes we have assumptions and prejudices about why someone does not reciprocate. Sometimes people do not reciprocate because they were hurt or cheated in the past very much. When we try to give very enthusiastically and intensely and quantitatively, and your friends may come and say, the person I love so much does not want me and it hurts so much. It is so hard. And I say there is a remedy for this. If you cannot change the situation, or if you cannot get someone who love you, or you think you love, whom you love, and you think you love, or you think you love, you can change how you see the situation. You can change your perception. If we cannot change the circumstances, we can certainly change the way we see things, how we see the circumstances. Then it can be much easier for us, the whole thing. And if we see it from the absolute platform or with a spiritual vision, we may see that this is reality and not the situation in which we are entangled and where we become attached. So the reality is actually what we can see from the spiritual platform. That's the permanent reality, or that's the actual reality. And then one can think, if I could only have this or that person, I would be happy. If we see that all souls are children of God and that this life is temporary, and if we all want to go to the same destination, then we will we will all be together there. And the person you love, who doesn't want you right now, will be there too. So therefore there is no loss. Maybe it will take 5 or 10 lifetimes, but we need to be patient and we need to have faith. As we develop love of Godhead, we also develop love for all living entities, not only for someone we are attracted to at the moment, maybe because of karma or because of our past life. For some reason, maybe they have done nice things for us or saved our life in the past. So you were attracted to someone, or now maybe you are not so much attracted because you are getting older. You are attracted because of some qualities that person has. So there are so many attractive people on this planet. And imagine how attractive are the residents of Vrindavan. Imagine if you meet cowherd boys or gopis, and what kind of souls they are. If we develop love of God, our love for devotees also grows. Yeah, because devotees are dear to Krishna, devotees are parts and parcels of Krishna, and they are pure parts and parcels. Therefore they are extremely attractive, because they demonstrate some of Krishna's qualities. In the scriptures there are many stories that illustrate this. Sometimes we see that devotees watch movies, although they should not. But why do they do that? Because there is a need, there is some need there that is not fulfilled. There is a need to see something, to see some romance, some loving exchange. If your life is dry, if in your life there is no loving exchange, if in your life nobody cares about you, no one is giving you attention, then you want to watch someone is giving attention to someone else in a movie, and then you feel very good and you melt. And we think, oh, how nice is this? How wonderful it would be if someone would treat me like this and love me like this. How much these two people love each other, and to some extent that need for a loving exchange is satisfied by watching the movie. One famous actress said, why do we like the movies? Because all of us need some illusion. In real life, there is so much opportunity for a real loving exchange. And our acharyas had given us a way to exchange love with devotees and with everyone else. And they have spoken about 6 loving exchanges. Srila Rupa Goswami mentions Dadati pratigrinati guyam akyati prichati bhunkte bhujate chaiva sadvida pritilakshanam. Spiritual life is very emotional, it's not dry. Some people think if they start spiritual life, they will be devoid of emotions. And sometimes they become emotionless because they absorb themselves only in rules and regulations. They are afraid of becoming attached to anyone, but they are already attached up to the neck to sense gratification. So then they try to avoid others, they don't want to say Haribol to the member of the opposite sex, and they think this is detachment. If you do not say Haribol to a person who is attractive to you, and you think this is purification, and inside there is a huge desire for a relationship and for exchange. So Krishna consciousness is so nice that it actually reveals everything. As Krishna has taken away gopis' dresses and they could not hide anything, similarly Krishna takes away all our masks. Once in Slovenia, in Maribor, I had a Bhagavad Gita class entitled Masks in 1998. Someone has recorded it and sent it to me recently. So there is one text that can be found on the internet called "Do not be fooled by me. Do not be fooled by my behavior." I gave a title to my class, a title Masks, because it speaks about masks and explains how conditioned souls act and how they present themselves in front of others as this and that, and inside there is insecure and scared soul who does not know what to do or where to go, whether he loves anyone or anyone loves him, etc. Anyway, thinking of the masks is an important thing in spiritual life. We can ask ourselves, what masks do I put on? I am a man, I am a woman, I am handsome, I am charming, I am this, I am that, etc. And to be able to love unconditionally, we have to take off all masks. The strongest people are able to admit their weaknesses publicly. Those who are weak, they present themselves as very self-confident, and within they are either very weak or rotten. What does it mean when I say rotten? Maybe they have very, very bad motives. For example, a cheater is rotten on the inside. Now, I have a question for you. How can we know if we really love someone? What would you say? When are you 100% convinced that you love someone? You yourself are convinced. I'm speaking about you being convinced yourself, not that you try to convince someone else. Not that you present yourself as a great lover, but that you are 100% sure for yourself and in front of God. You can say to God, "Oh Lord, do you believe that I adore this person and that I love her or him very much? And what do I need to do to convince you of this? Or to convince yourself? How do you know that you really love someone?" There may be many answers to this question, but one answer that came to my mind is that you can see how much you are ready to sacrifice your personal interest and comfort so that the person can be protected and happy. The person you love can be protected and happy. So who is ready for that? Who is ready to do that? Imagine if you could tell people that these books can teach you how to love unconditionally, how to love in the best possible way. Many people would like to be able to love unconditionally because they know it is a very high level of consciousness. Actually, this is the highest level of consciousness. This is what we are trying to achieve here in Bhakti Yoga, the 8th verse of Shikshashtaka, which speaks about unconditional love. So it is readiness to serve, readiness to do something so this person will be better off. For example, a devotee is ready to risk his life to give Krishna consciousness to people. He will go to countries where it is very risky. I remember when we visited Albania, right after the communism failed there, then one devotee had some contacts from book distribution. She met some people from Albania in Zagreb, and they offered to help her if she visits. And then they arranged to pick us up with 2 cars at the Tirana airport. So as a group, 5 of us went. We were split in 2 groups, we were separated, and we had no idea where they will take us. It was night, At the end, everything went well, but we were a little scared. At least I was. Then one ISKCON Swami once went to some Middle East country and he had a preaching program, and he mentioned in his class that God has lotus feet. And then one man chased him with a knife to kill him, because it is considered to be a great offense to say that God has feet and that God is a person. So fortunately, this Swami escaped, and one car came and picked him up and saved him. In this way, he risked his life to preach Krishna consciousness, and this readiness to sacrifice for your beloved, readiness to risk your life, is a symptom of genuine love. Now, we have heard that Queen Kunti speaks of cutting the ties of affection for her relatives. And when we read this without reading Srila Prabhupada's purport, we can actually misunderstand the verse. Srila Prabhupada writes in his purport, to cut off the tie of all other affections does not mean complete negation of the finer elements like affection for someone else. This is not possible. A living being, whoever he may be, must have this feeling of affection for others, because this is a symptom of life. The symptoms of life, such as desire, anger, hankerings, feelings of attraction, etc., cannot be annihilated. Only the objective has to be changed. Desire cannot be negated, but in devotional service, the desire is changed only for the service of the Lord in place of desire for sense gratification. The so-called affection for family, society, country, etc. consists of different phases of sense gratification. When this desire is changed for the satisfaction of the Lord, it is called devotional service. So end of quote. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, Text 42, purport. So that statement about cutting the ties of affection relates to a bodily relationship. It is sometimes called skin disease. It does not mean one does not have love for those near and dear. Rather, he has even more love for them, but this love is more pure because it is related to the soul. A prostitute approached Haridas Thakur to make him fall down. He had so much love for this beautiful girl that he tolerated her provocations and asked her to wait that he finishes his daily chanting. She would come every day and make various postures to attract him, like womanly postures. She wanted to unite with him. And he said, "Sorry, I gave a vow to chant many rounds, so please wait that I finish my rounds and I will fulfill your desire." And every time she would come, she would offer obeisances to him. Every night he would chant until late, and she would listen and listen and listen and then get tired and leave. And in this way she came for a few days doing the same thing. And as she listened to the pure chanting of Srila Haridas Thakur, she became purified. And finally she started crying and admitted she was sent to make him fall down from his path. But he knew this already. He had so much love and compassion for her soul, that he became her guru and saved her. So he instructed her then, after he instructed her to chant and worship Tulasi, and distribute her possessions to the devotees, to the Vaishnavas. And she became such a famous Vaishnavi that people from faraway parts of India came to see her. So this is one romantic story from the scriptures, Haridas Thakur and the prostitute. Another story is a story from Mahabharata about Savitri and Satyavan. Srila Prabhupada mentions this story in his teachings. Savitri's father first wanted to have a son, so he prayed to the sun god to get a son, and then sun god gave him a daughter. He was also happy to get a daughter, and she was very beautiful, and all the men who were living nearby were attracted to her. However, when the time came for her to get married, no one dared to approach her. She was too good. And then her father told her that she should choose a husband. And then she went to the forest and she chose Satyavan. She had chosen Satyavan, who was the son of a king who was banished to the forest. Unfortunately, Satyavan's destiny was to die in a year, and she was informed of that. Narada Muni told her father she made a bad choice. But Savitri did not give up, and her father respected her choice. She wanted Satyavan. When the time has come that Satyavan leaves his body, the god of death, Yamaraj, came to take him away. And as he was going away with Satyavan, Savitri followed him, and at the same time she glorified Yamaraj. And then she also spoke some wise words about Dharma and other things that are very meaningful. And by this she pleased Yamaraj. She pleased him so much that he said, "You may ask me for any benediction except the life of your husband." Now she continued to speak, and she pleased Yamaraj with her words and her purity and her chastity. So therefore he again said, "You can ask me for any benediction." But this time he didn't mention that she should not ask for the life of her husband. And then she said, "I would like to have children, but how will I have them if you take away my husband to the kingdom of death?" And then Yamaraj agreed to bring Satyavan back to life. And Satyavan, he was in some kind of like a dream-like state, or half dream or something like that, like semi-dream. And he did not know what was happening, and when he came to his consciousness, as if being awakened from a dream, he did not know what happened. But his family knew what happened, and how Savitri, with her love, saved his life. And then there is another story about a leper Brahmana whose chaste wife loved him so much that she brought him another woman whom he wanted to enjoy, a prostitute. When this Brahmana saw the high character of his wife, he abandoned the idea, he gave up the idea. Can you imagine that? This story is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Lila, chapter 20. This chapter is called Shikshashtaka prayers, and it also describes the 8th verse of Shikshashtaka, which speaks of the highest level of consciousness and which speaks about unconditional love. There Srimati Radharani says, "If Krishna wants to enjoy with some other gopi, I become her maidservant. I will do everything so she can go to Krishna and that Krishna can enjoy her." And Srimati Radharani says, I am only interested in Krishna's happiness. If my unhappiness is his happiness, I accept that unhappiness. If my happiness is his unhappiness, I don't want to be happy. This is unconditional love. And then we have a story of Bilva Mangala Thakur. Imagine you want to meet a girl, but it is raining outside. You don't feel like going out. It is very uncomfortable, cold, strong wind. So what kind of lover you are if the rain prevents you from going to your beloved? And Bilva Mangala Thakur, he desired so much to be with Chintamani, the prostitute, that he was swimming in the dangerous waves of a swift river. Then he got hold of a snake. He climbed high walls. He got bruised, but he managed to reach her. So he risked his life and sacrificed so much to come to the woman he wanted. And who can do this nowadays? Sometimes a boy comes to me and says he likes this girl or Bhaktin, and then I say, so what are you ready to do to get her? To be with her, to take care of her, to be her husband? And he says, I don't know, I didn't think about that. And I say, think about it and then come back to me. So this lady is a Bhaktin, she is not cheap. She is a special soul, and you want to be with her because she is beautiful, and you also need to know her dark side or her weaknesses, because everyone has a dark side, not only women, men too. And I sometimes put on Facebook a dialogue between men and the woman, like this one. Do you love me? Yes. Can you digest my dark side? Yes. We shall see. So this is a challenge. Montenegro philosopher Petar Petrovich Njegoš said, your heroism can be seen in difficult situations. Lately I met some incredible devotees. I met a devotee from South America who to me is a hero. Why do I think that? Why do I think like this? Well, he can do something that most of us cannot do. And what he can do, I think, is harder than, meditating in freezing cold Himalayas. Then it's harder than going from door to door and being rejected while trying to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books to people. People say, no, we have no money, we are not interested, go away. So what is harder than that? Well, at least for me, and I believe for many men, harder is to survive the insults of your beloved wife or of your girlfriend. So this devotee runs seminars on Grihastha life, and he respects women very much, and he has developed a whole teaching or a theory that what women need and how we should facilitate ladies in our movement. And he was mentioning a story from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 14, where Lakshmi Devi got angry. And this section explains what a woman does when she gets angry and why she gets angry. And one thing that many men do not know is that woman does not get angry because she is evil or because she hates you, but usually it's because she doesn't get enough attention from her husband or lover. So this Prabhuji was giving class on those verses, and this is just his topic. He's teaching courses about this. So I asked him, do you consider yourself to be a successful husband? And then he said yes. But then he paused, and then he said, well, you should ask my wife. So he's very honest. I like that. Then later, privately, I asked him, does your wife insult you? And he said yes. And I asked, so what do you do? And he said, I wait until she finishes, and then I tell her that this is not okay. I mean, who can do that? I said, Prabhu, put your feet on my head. Who can do that? It's the hardest thing to do. We all know how to make a cold war, or sometimes they call it cold shoulder, ignoring the person and not wanting to communicate, not wanting to talk, not giving attention. Then someone beats up his wife if she's rude, or he waits until she stops and says, but this devotee, he waits until his wife stops and he says, this is not right. So what kind of yoga is this? I mean, this is really amazing. I recently posted on Facebook, I wrote practice yoga of not slamming the door and not shouting. It is such a difficult yoga. The most difficult yoga is yoga of relationships, where you need a lot of patience and tolerance. And for example, if you live in the ashram, great yoga is not to slam the door while other devotees are resting. If you come late from the evening program, you come back ecstatic, there was a Harinam, Guru was there, and then you're shouting in the temple corridors or in the room, and you forget the devotees are resting, and that early in the morning they have maybe a pujari service or something. You're full of yourself, full of realizations, full of Krishna, but you are unscrupulous, you are very, very insensitive, inconsiderate. You are not considerate to other devotees' needs for resting. Then great yoga, we can say, is not to step on the glasses of a devotee who is sleeping on the floor in the sleeping bag and who fell asleep reading Krishna book. So this devotee can do that. So what kind of amazing yogi he is? I mean, you tell me. So freezing, US Navy training, that's peanuts. If wife insults a Marine or a soldier, he'll kill her. He can do 100 push-ups and 100 pull-ups, and he can run and swim. But when his beloved insults him, he will either kill her or divorce her. And we think he is a great hero. So this other devotee, he is a hero. Well, he loves his wife so much that he can tolerate her frustration. And who knows why she is frustrated? Maybe it is not because of him at all, but because of something else. He has to understand the needs. He has to understand he needs to be patient. So we say patience is love in action. If we love someone, we will be patient with them. It's the hardest thing of all, really. It's the hardest thing. If you really love someone, you can be patient almost unlimited with him or her. There are many other phenomenal stories. For example, King Chitraketu was very attached to his little son, Harsha Shoka, and he could not hear the truth from anyone, like Narada Muni came and some other sage came, but he couldn't hear the truth from anyone except from the person that he was attached to, and this was his little son. And therefore Narada Muni had to make a special magical arrangement to bring the boy back to life after he was poisoned and died. He was poisoned by king's co-wives, so the boy died, and then when the boy came back to life, he could speak again. And he told his father, "Why are you so much attached to me? I am not your son. I had so many fathers and mothers in many lifetimes." So sometimes God sends us a person from whom we can hear. Like Chintamani, the prostitute, she preached to Bilva Mangala Thakur when he came to her through thick and thin. She said, "You risk your life for these flesh and bones, for my body. If you would surrender to Krishna so much, how much advancement you would make. So she was also a devotee. And Bilvamangala took it seriously, and later he glorified her in his Krishna conscious poetry. And his poetry is amongst the most exalted poetry in the history of Vaishnava literature. He glorified her as his guru. She directed him to the right path. So all these kind of miracles are possible with Srila Prabhupada's books. If we read them, if we distribute them, if we learn them, if we apply them, if we realize them. Like these miracles in interpersonal relationships that we can read about in the scriptures, these miracles of love. There is another phenomenal story of an autistic boy. Autistic means you cannot communicate with him, you cannot reach him. This boy would just shake his body back and forth whole day and nobody could talk to him. You can do anything, you can wave in front of him, etc. He wouldn't react. Maybe when he sees food, he reacts a little bit and eats a little bit. And his parents did not know what to do. And maybe they prayed to God, but after some time, after a long time, they got an idea to actually do the same thing he is doing. So the mother started pacing back and forth, shaking her body as he did. And over the period of 3 years, she and her husband worked for 9,700 hours one-to-one with that boy, with their son. And then he started to notice them, and he started to communicate little by little. Then once that time he asked for the juice for the first time, and his parents were absolutely delighted. And before that, he never asked them for anything. So he got better and better, but after some time he slipped again. And again he was the same. And then again, they continued working with him, supporting him, showing him their love, and he got better. And believe it or not, this boy is now a director of the Autism Institute, and he is completely normal. So mother and father healed him basically with their love. If you want to find the movie, the name of the movie is The Miracle of Love. And I can also send you a link to YouTube. It's on the YouTube. So just see what people do out of love. And what are we ready to do for those people we say that we love them? Maybe we are not even ready to go in the rain to do something for the person we love. Imagine if a woman asks a husband to pick her up because it's raining, and he says he can't because he is tired. So what kind of husband he is? If we look from the point of view of readiness to sacrifice for the beloved person, he is an absolute zero. He is a lost case. So he could do a little sacrifice for his wife and pick her up in the rain. So where all these things come from, we can ask. How they come into our life. I think God has created the laws of love and the laws of life. We didn't invent how people should relate and what is love. He created all this, and in his pastimes you can see these things. Srila Prabhupada says that unconditional love is in everyone's heart. This jewel is there in our heart. It's in your heart too. So we just need to open it up. This jewel of unconditional love. And that is the power of Srila Prabhupada's books, I believe. They brought us here to practice this process. The books brought us here to practice this process. The power of Srila Prabhupada's books is to transform our heart from selfishness to a complete selflessness and love. And when you love someone, then nothing is hard to do. Nothing is hard for you to do for them. It's not hard to sacrifice. It's not hard to go in the rain, in the snow, to give them something, whatever. That is love. Readiness to do anything, to sacrifice. It's easy to write, I love you. What is this? 2 words. I love you, 3 words. Or you send maybe a heart on the Facebook. Of course, some people are experts. They can express their love with these emoticons. They know the art of this. This really, you can even, you can feel if they love you, if they make amazing arrangement with these emoticons. But I mean, it's easy to press, to click one heart or something. But to be ready that in the middle of the night or early in the morning or any time, if this person needs something, that you are always there for him or her, always ready to do something for them, whatever they need, whatever is needed, just tell me. If we want to develop unconditional love, we can pray to Srimati Radharani and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They are the embodiment of the personification of unconditional love. They show us in the most powerful way that unconditional love. So thank you very much for reading this. I wish you a great success on your journey to developing pure, loving heart, full of unconditional love. Hare Krishna.